Hello everyone, I'm Jordana Van of Ravenlight Holistic Healing and welcome to Octopus as a Totem. Because there are approximately 300 different species of octopuses, this video is going to be about octopus as a totem in general, rather than about any one species. As always, if you'd like to know about what it means to have a particular species of a creature as a totem, or if you'd like more information than I cover here, because seriously, if I put everything into these videos, we would be here all day. So I really have to pick and choose what I include. You're welcome to schedule a session with me by visiting my website, which is www.ravenlightholistic.healing.com. Remember that as much as I adore you guys, I don't provide counseling on your personal spiritual information and experiences outside of a formal session. So if you have a burning need for info, please visit my website. I would love to work with you in a professional capacity. Also, before we get into the heart of Octopus's wisdom, or three hearts, because the octopus has three hearts, we need to talk grammar. As much as it may vex those among us who are obsessive about proper grammar, the plural of octopus really is octopuses and not octopi. There's a whole long explanation involving Latin for exactly why this is, and we're going to skip that. Also, an octopus's limbs are called arms, not tentacles. The term tentacle is used for squid, cuttlefish, and nautiluses, not for octopuses. So no grammar lessons from you guys, okay? All right. So anyone who still remembers their high school mathematics course may remember that octo, as in octagon, is the Latin for the number 8, with the octopus therefore being given its name due to its 8 arms. And each of these arms actually has a mind of its own. 3/5 of all the neurons in an octopus's body are in its arms, not in its walnut-sized brain. What this means is that the octopus can use one arm to try to crack open a clamshell, another to arrange rocks in front of its cave, another to feel around for additional food sources, and the others for whatever the heck else it wants. And this is really the key here. Each task can be given the same focus and attention as all the others. The octopus is a legitimate multitasker. It really can do many different things at once and do all of them well. For those who have octopus as a totem, it's pretty much par for the course for you to have at least 8 different things going on at a time. If you're cooking dinner, you're also thinking about what you'd like to cook tomorrow, making a grocery list for those meals, watching a podcast, making a list of art supplies you need for another project, talking with your spouse, doing calf raises, and figuring out to wear for a Halloween party 6 months from now. And somehow you're actually managing to do each of these without burning the food, missing out on what the podcaster has said, injuring yourself, or making your spouse feel ignored. Each task somehow receives the fullness of your attention. It may not actually get finished because suddenly something else grabs your attention, but when you're focused on it, you're focused on it. This probably drives those around you nuts, and you just kind of have to let this go. They really can't understand because for them, it is just not possible for them to split their attention this way. This is a little like living with a Gemini, or someone with Gemini rising, or Mars in Gemini. Geminis are always running in 1,000 different directions with their thoughts and their actions, and while they may have a hard time getting things done, the driving force of their life isn't actually to accomplish things. They will accomplish things, but what really drives them is to experience stuff. The same goes for octopus people. Where this becomes a problem, where this, going everywhere, doing everything, seeing everything all at once, is when they're so caught up in flying all over the place, whether via thoughts or actions or just the general miasma that goes around in the Gemini brain and octopus person's brain, that they lose their connection with their bodies and with their physical reality. When an octopus loses its arm, it can regrow a new one. But in the meantime, that arm will keep right on acting the way it would act if it were still attached to the body. If it encounters a food item, it will keep trying to put that food where the mouth would be if the mouth were still there. What this means for octopus people is that while all the stuff you are doing, or wondering if you should be doing, is being given the fullness of your attention, you may not be paying sufficient notice to your physical and or mental health. It is really imperative for octopus people to occasionally put down all the different things they are doing, stop thinking about those things, turn inwards and focus on themselves and their physical bodies, on the heart sensations, not the mental ones. Otherwise, they may be blindsided by a sudden illness or injury. It's also important for them to occasionally slow down, take some deliberate breaths, and then look around them. Critical features of their realities may have changed while they were physically or mentally involved in all those tasks. For example, maybe your partner has been really unhappy, but they haven't said anything about it, and they haven't done anything to get your attention, so you haven't noticed. Or maybe the IRS has been sending you letters that you owe them some money, but because you breeze through the letters so quickly, you don't recognize that there are some serious consequences to not paying right now. Taking a moment to stop and do a reality check might save you a nasty fine or a wage garnishment later, or a major shock when your partner suddenly moves out or quits their jobs. Speaking of jobs, where earning money is concerned, an octopus person's hell would be being forced to focus on only one thing all day, every day. Octopus people are easily bored, and they need variety. They're built for it. And this is another Gemini quality. Octopus people and Geminis are not the kind of people who could happily work in a factory line or do basic data entry. Whatever career they are in, it has to offer a lot of different opportunities for mental stimulation and for learning, and it has to have a lot of different tasks to do. Or they have to be involved in several different lines of work. Octopuses are extremely smart critters, and they need opportunities to exercise their intellect to be happy. Octopus people are the same way. If they don't have something to figure out, they feel massively dissatisfied, and depression can result. Another interesting feature of the octopus's arms is that the suckers that cover them have sense receptors for tastes. So an octopus actually tastes its food by touching it. 2, many scientists also believe that visual receptors that detect color are located in the octopus's skin, meaning that an octopus also sees the fullness of its world through touching. Combined with the mass of the octopus's intellect being located in its arms, what this creates for octopus people is the need to learn through actively doing, rather than just reading the instruction manual or watching a video. And that fulfillment comes from experiencing rather than just observing. They have to have the visceral experience with it in order for it to mean something to them. At the same time, octopuses spend most of their time in their little dens, leaving only to hunt. So these aren't really the kind of people for whom joy comes from going out and partying all the time. And while travel may be enjoyed, it will tend to wear them out quickly. For the octopus person, much of that visceral experiencing we just talked about is going to have to come through their jobs, which is why it's super important for them to do something with a lot of variety, or to have several different jobs, because they just aren't going to get that kind of fulfillment elsewhere, and they want to be home when they're not working. At the end of a satisfying day, earning money in a variety of different ways, they really just want to go back to their little caves to relax in peace and quiet. They may also meet their fulfillment needs through creative activities, mostly the kind that they can bring home with them and do in solitude. Now, with its 8 arms, and with the fact that it was given a name based on that number, we really need to talk about the numerological significance of the number 8. Normally, when we are talking about anything to do with the number of 8, we are going to be talking about money, and specifically about the pursuit of money. I'd like to state here that there is nothing inherently wrong with having a ton of money and spending it however the heck you please. Anyone who thinks differently is making an ego-based judgment. On a moral level, being flush with wealth and spending frivolously is no worse and no better than being poor or being wealthy and giving away every dime, okay? So, usually anyone with an 8 in a prominent place in their numerological makeup is going to spend a lot of time worrying about money. They may be scrupulous savers, terrified to spend a penny, or they may spend lavishly on whatever they please. But in the back of the minds, or actually usually the front, considering how anxious they are about this, they are intensely concerned about their finances. The good news is that 8 signifies the ability to bring in lots and lots of money, and the ability to do so in a way that pleases you. So 8s are supposed to have the kind of financial situation that they want, But to get there, they have to stop freaking out about it and start trusting themselves. Until they do that, they're usually going to be flat broke, or always on the edge of being flat broke. And 8 will always find a way to connect with the needed funds if they follow the pull of what feels fun and energizing for them, even if it seems risky. These feelings are how the universe tells us how to move happily through life. If instead they only stick to a career that feels responsible or safe, if they surrender to self-doubt and rely endlessly on others because they're convinced they can't support themselves in a way that would make them happy, if they force themselves to save when saving makes them feel depressed, or if they spend on things that they think they should want, that should make them happy instead of what actually does, then they're always going to be chasing those dollars or asking others for them. Octopus people, it is imperative for you that you ask yourself, what makes you happy? And do that. Be brave. Dig deep. Find a little faith in yourself. Octopuses are really, really unique creatures. Chances are the things that make you happy are quite different from the norm, maybe even shockingly so. But if you pursue them with confidence, you'll turn them into the money makers you've been seeking. You are not meant to be like everyone else, nor probably to earn money like everyone else. And remember, whatever career you choose is going to need to feature a lot of opportunities for variety. Now, the other part of the 8 has to do with the infinite cycle of life and death. If you turn 8 on its side, it becomes the symbol for infinity. Those with an 8 in their numerological charts have to do a lot of starting over in their lives. Change is hard for these people, and so often the only way the universe can get them to change is by taking away their choice in the matter. The universe will tell us when we need to let things go or change them in some way. Jobs, homes, relationships, old beliefs, and all other manner of circumstances won't satisfy us anymore, or we'll have some other negative feelings about them. And when this occurs, we're being asked to examine them and to examine ourselves and our beliefs about them. Then we either make changes to ourselves or to the circumstances, or we make a clean break from the circumstances entirely. If we refuse to do this because we are afraid, the universe will tend to take the choice away from us. This is when we get laid off from the job that we hated, but we were too scared to quit. Or a fire burns down the house in which we didn't like living, or the loan we needed to continue our education falls through, or the spouse that made our lives hell suddenly has an affair and leaves. On the surface, these seem like bad things, but it's the universe's way of actually giving us what we wanted but we're too scared to allow. Now, all of us, if we're really working on ourselves, are going to experience several deaths during our lifetimes. And I'm talking about a death of the self, not necessarily a death of people around us. Critical features of our old life are either going to be consciously surrendered when the time comes or torn out of our grasp if we refuse to let go. But octopus people take these transformations, this death of the old and the birth of the new, to an entirely new level. The good news is, if you're aware that your journey is going to feature a ton of personal transformation, you can begin to pay attention when the universe is sending you signals that change is needed. And you can learn to honor these signals rather than ignoring or fighting against them. And guys, I'm a double Taurus. Taurus hates change, but I've learned to flow with it and actually really enjoy it. It still makes me a little uncomfortable, but I'm excited about it. You can do this too. Now, most octopuses don't live very long, with the average lifespan only being 3 years. And death occurs shortly after mating. After the male octopus mates with a female, it simply wanders off and dies a few months later. And from what I can tell, and there isn't a lot of specific information on this, alas, it's not actually the mating that causes the male to die, but that it tends to instinctively mate just before its natural lifespan runs out. The females, on the other hand, are such good mothers that it kills them. Once she lays her eggs, and she lays at least 100,000 of them, she completely ceases to care for herself and devotes all of her attention and energy to her eggs, covering them, defending them against predators, continuously moving her arms over them to supply fresh oxygenated water. She never stops, she never leaves, and she never eats. This goes on for months, sometimes almost a year, and in one case for over 4 years. After the eggs hatch, she dies of starvation and exhaustion. I know it's cheerful, right? There are several things going on here that we need to talk about. The first is the relationship between an octopus's mating and its death. As soon as it finds a mate and has sex, it's getting ready to die, whether it's male or female. What this means for octopus people is that many of the deaths in your life, the transformations, are going to occur because of a relationship, and either its unique blessings or curses. This is a bit like having Pluto, which is the planet of death and rebirth, in the 7th house, which represents relationships. To use an extreme example, it may not be till you are in a relationship with an abuser that you learn how to love and respect yourself. Or perhaps your partner supported you financially, and when they suddenly pass away, you are forced to discover that you do have the ability to make a ton of money doing something you love and support yourself. Or to use a sunnier example, maybe you've always lacked self-esteem, and then you meet the person who inspires you to see how amazing you are, and your whole life changes as a result. The other important piece here involves your creative projects. The second chakra is the chakra that houses our sexual energies and is therefore linked to our physical connection to our mates. And it is also responsible for helping us birth physical children. With all of this passion and the birth that results from it going on here, it shouldn't be surprising that this same chakra is responsible for our creative projects. You feel a passion stirring inside you, you marry this feeling to action, and voila, a project is born. Octopus people are extremely creative, and they are extremely obsessive. As an octopus person, when you put your heart into a project of some kind, whether that's a painting or a new way of running your business or writing a book or an opera or anything else requiring ingenuity and follow through to bring it to life, you're going to eat, sleep, and breathe this thing. And probably forget to eat, sleep, and breathe for your physical body. Every fiber of your being is going to be wrapped up in this thing. And then suddenly it's here, it's done, it's been birthed, and you feel a sudden sense of letdown. And then suddenly, well, who are you without this thing? What will you do with yourself? Where do you put your energies? What makes your life worth living? There can be a lot of depression at this point, and that's okay. 2, you're probably going to become aware that you neglected your physical body a bit while you were in creativity land, and you're going to need to put some effort into eating well and doing the kind of physical activity, and probably sleeping, to bring yourself back into balance. This may take some time, so you're going to need to be patient with yourself. Once you've recovered a bit, the creativity fires are going to start burning again, and you're going to shift your focus to something else and do it all over again. And this something else may represent an entirely different lifestyle or ask you to be an entirely different person. So much so that the project you just completed may seem to have been done by another person entirely. Old you, who was so wrapped up in that project, has died so that new you can birth this new thing. So now we get to talk about the creation of physical, living, breathing children and the octopus person's relationship to them. As we just talked about, octopus mommies give everything that they have to their eggs. Literally everything. On the upside, octopus people are some of the most loving, attentive mothers that there are. When their children are young, they will see to their child's every need, genuinely putting their children before themselves in every possible way. However, when that child begins to show signs of no longer needing them to be mommy every moment, or even more traumatic when they grow up and move out, this is going to hit the octopus person like a ton of bricks. Their life was about being mommy, and suddenly they aren't mommy anymore. Yes, you are always going to be your child's mother, and they're always going to need you in some way. But you no longer need to be there for them 24/7. If you aren't really listening to yourself as you move through this process, you're going to get slammed with depression and anxiety. And you're probably going to find yourself meddling in your adult child's affairs just to feel like you are needed again. As tough as it may be, you have to let them go. You did your job, and now you get to nurture you. Old mommy you finally gets to rest, and you get to discover who you are when your life is about you and not your children, which probably means that you're going to throw yourself into the creative projects in the way that I just talked about. Empty nest syndrome was really created for octopus people. Again, this can be really traumatic, and that's okay. Life feels traumatic sometimes. You just have to be patient with yourself. Also, it is sometimes the case that a man will take on the aforementioned mommy role in a family. So if you're a man, or if you identify as a man and this is you, then there's nothing wrong with that. The same wisdom applies to you as it would to a woman. Even if you aren't the variety of octopus person who gives their heart, soul, and every fiber of their energy until they have no life of their own to their children, you are probably going to be the person who gives those things to someone. In fact, probably a lot of people. You give, and you give, and you give, and you give some more, you don't receive in return, and you wind up sick and drained. You can't stop. You want to, but you can't. And you're probably aware this is a problem for you. Having octopus as a totem is reminiscent of having a lot of Gemini energy in your chart, as we discussed, but its energy is also very Piscean. If you're familiar with astrology, it's a little like having your sun in Gemini, but your ascendant or your Venus in Pisces, or vice versa. You need your freedom. You need to be able to see everything, do everything, but you just keep winding up getting sucked into everyone else's emotional dramas and stuck. And everyone needs you all the time. When I work with someone with a lot of Pisces in their chart, we almost always talk about boundaries because these people don't usually have any. And it's not really their fault. They're so freaking sensitive to everyone else's emotions, and they have such good hearts that they find themselves giving and worrying about others no matter how hard they try to disentangle themselves. All they really want is to be loved in return for all the energy they give to others, and for others to actually use the advice the Pisces is giving them and fix things already. But it just doesn't seem to happen. There's a saying among astrologers that Pisces either serves or suffers in its lifetime. Sacrifice is so innate for them that if they don't pay attention to how they feel about giving all that love, they're going to give and give and give until they're all used up. So how does this apply to octopus? Well, first, octopuses don't have any external shells or internal skeletons. Without their venom or their ink, which we'll talk about in a bit, they would be easy prey to just about anything. They have no walls, no boundaries, and alas, no spine. If you're an octopus person, it is a good bet that when you are confronted with someone wanting something from you or needing something, you have a seriously hard time saying no. Part of this is because you really truly care. Octopuses have 3 hearts. 3! 2 of them move blood through the gills, and the other keeps circulation going through the rest of the body. This much heart in one's totem creates a person who feels their own emotions very deeply, who's very easily wounded, and who cares fiercely about other people, because they know how it feels to crave love, and they know how it feels to be hurt. On top of all of this, with no shell and no barrier against others, you can feel everything that they feel. When they feel scared or sad or otherwise uncomfortable, you feel scared or sad or uncomfortable. This is a common Pisces problem. You want the other person to feel better because you love them. But you also want them to feel better because you want to feel better. If you can't stop these emotions from overwhelming you, your only course of action is to fix the other person. Because it isn't until they stop suffering that you stop absorbing their suffering and then suffering yourself. And this is why so many Pisceans don't sleep at night unless they self-medicate. They are worrying about everyone and everything as though the other person's problems were their own. Because octopuses don't have any hard pieces to them except for their beaks, they can squeeze into places that should be impossible for them to fit into, and they will attempt to do so even if it kills them. Even the biggest of octopuses can squeeze through the smallest of cracks. Octopuses are known to fight like mad when you try to confine them against their will, and they are extraordinary escape artists. They've been known to climb out of their tanks and aquariums and head for the closest drain pipe, which sometimes leads to the ocean and sometimes doesn't, which gets them killed. Other octopuses have been found squeezed into teapots or bookcases or corners where they also eventually die. If you're an octopus person confronted with a needy individual who wants you to be there for them when you don't want to be there for them, no matter how much you love them, you're probably going to agree to whatever they want of you and then make up an excuse for not following through. You'll suddenly get sick, or you won't answer your phone and you'll claim that you didn't have service or just didn't get their text, or you'll suddenly have a funeral you need to go to. You are a master at coming up with ways to escape situations that make you feel trapped. Unfortunately, running away instead of dealing with these situations just tends to mean that they keep happening again and again and again, and you feel constantly drained by the needs of others and afraid of the next time someone's going to ask you for something. And as you do this, your fear makes your life smaller and smaller until you're starving for joy and stimulation and turn into an unintentional hermit with severe anxiety. So how the heck do you deal with this? Well, first, you have to recognize that other people are going to be overwhelming for you. And give yourself permission to limit your time among them, along with downtime to recover afterwards. Octopuses aren't social creatures. You don't find them in packs. If you did, eventually there would only be one anyway, because they would eat each other. They actually spend most of their time in their caves, around which they carefully arrange shells and rocks to protect themselves. Pisces tends to get itself into trouble because it cares so much about others and what they think others think of them, that they force themselves to spend time with people when they don't genuinely want to. Then they feel tired and headachy afterwards because they've given those other people energy that they didn't have to give, or because they absorbed the energy that was really icky from others. Think of yourself like an octopus. You don't have anything physical separating you from those other people and all their crazy. So your threshold for spending time with other people is going to be a lot lower than it is for most others, and that is okay. This is just how you're created. Second, when someone asks you for something, you need to calm down. We don't have time here for me to give you guys the step-by-step how do I set boundaries and hold them lesson I give clients who always find themselves being taken advantage of. But the short version is that when people ask us to give them our energy in any way, whether that's to ask if we can help them move, or can we call them later and check on them during a time of emotional trial, or will we donate to their charity, etc., etc. If we are very sensitive individuals, then this actually feels like an attack. It's not, but that's how we feel, and we will immediately leap to make the attack stop. Someone wants our energy, and we fear what will happen to us if we refuse. This usually means that we agree to whatever's wanted, so they'll stop projecting all that need. And so we can avoid dealing with the anger we think will result if we say no. But instead of immediately answering and then having to find a way to get out of it later, we can stop, breathe, slowly in and out, and give an honest response. Or at least as close to honest as you can get. So instead of immediately saying, okay, and planning to find a way out later, or making up an excuse for why you can't, you can tell them, I'm not sure. Can I get back to you on that? If they need an answer now and you really don't want to do it, you can say, I'm sorry, but the notice is just too short. And guys, anybody that pushes you to decide when you've said that doesn't really have your best interests at heart. Learning how to stop, breathe, think gives you the most honest answer that comes to mind. You know what you would really want to say. And then you can make a choice to say the closest thing you can to that. When you do that, instead of reacting, that takes time to learn, but it can be done, and it will make such a difference. You will be so much happier afterwards. This is a great way to weed out people in your life who are using you. And the more you learn to identify and respect your time and energy and true desires, the more you're going to bring people into your life who will also respect these things. And for the sake of full disclosure, it took me about 1.5 years to master this. Going from immediately saying yes, and then lying about it later to get out of it, making excuses, making myself sick, whatever, to being able to say, nope, not interested, love you, sorry. 1.5 years of conscious effort, but it's one of the best things I ever did for myself. And you can do it too. Now, one of the reasons that slowing down like this, instead of reacting immediately from a place of fear, is so good for octopus people is that when an octopus jets off, when it swims away, which it does when it's afraid, the heart that pumps blood to its organs actually stops beating. Swimming exhausts them tremendously, and doing it for too long can actually kill them. This is why octopuses actually prefer to crawl. So metaphysically, acting from fear robs the octopus person of their heart energy, which is what allows them to give themselves the care they need. Moving from a place that is not heart-centered is really bad for everyone, but especially for octopus people. So if you're an octopus person, learning to calmly deal with other people in an honest way rather than avoiding them in the first place or continuously making excuses and then running from your commitments is the difference between a healthy, happy mind and body and feeling sick, exhausted, and empty. And now things really get interesting. Octopuses are venomous. In fact, the southern blue-ringed octopus is one of the world's most deadly venomous animals. Even though the venom is really just for the purpose of hunting prey and making the prey more digestible, and is not normally aggressive towards humans, if it bites you, you're going to be dosed with a neurotoxic, flesh-dissolving venom 1,000 times more powerful than cyanide. And just like for those of us with snake totems, if we are cornered and see no way out but to bite, to lash out verbally, The person that created that fear is never ever going to mess with us again because we are going to destroy them. We're going to tell them something about themselves that is going to make them feel so small and so worthless that they are going to suffer such a crisis of faith in themselves that it may actually catapult them right into the dark night of the soul. Needless to say, this is not something that relationships survive. If you upset an octopus person enough that they are forced to bite, kiss your relationship with them goodbye. Though at that point, they're going to have hurt you so badly, you're going to be too scared to want to see them again anyway. What is actually more likely to happen is that rather than biting you, a scared octopus is going to squirt a cloud of toxic ink in your direction and then run away while you are blinded and confused. This isn't particularly ideal because, one, you're running again, which we just talked about as not being very good for you. And two, this ink is actually so toxic that an octopus that doesn't escape its own ink cloud will usually die. Every time it squirts ink, it's risking getting stuck in it and killing itself. If you're not familiar with the term ghosted, which, go me, I've recently learned, and here I thought my slang acquisition days ended when I left my job in public education, what this means is when a friend or romantic interest suddenly up and vanishes for no reason at all. They don't call you, they won't answer or reply to your calls or texts, they delete and block you on social media, they might send you a message saying leave me alone, but that's it. Everything was fine and suddenly they're gone. What really happened is that you somehow upset or frightened or confused this person, and rather than talk to you about this, they ghosted you. They disappeared from your life and made it impossible for you to connect with them again. This may be because they didn't like you enough to put the effort into having this conversation with you. Sorry. Because they were afraid of because they were afraid of how you would react if they talked with you about their feelings. Ghosting, I have no doubt, was invented by an octopus person. Remember, these folks feel vulnerable all the time to the emotions of others, and they're seriously afraid of being attacked for upsetting you. So they're going to avoid telling you how much you offended or upset or disappointed them in the same way that other people avoid going to the dentist. They also don't particularly like a lot of social contact. So having a conversation with you about your behavior when they aren't that invested in you anyway is going to feel like a huge amount of useless work, and they will probably avoid it if possible. So what do instead? They vanish and make it impossible for you to talk to them again. Octopus people, sometimes, this is the right course of action. As sensitive to other people's emotions as you are, and with your inherent need to help everyone, most especially the people who are the most badly broken, you may well have genuinely found yourself in a relationship that was so toxic for you and that no amount of explaining why to the other person is ever going to fix the situation. It really is just best for you to vanish and make sure they can't find their way back into your life. But if you do this too often, you're going to wind up getting sucked into your own web of confusion, your own dark cloud, and this is really going to hurt you. Remember, octopuses that don't escape their own ink cloud die. And if you've been creating these clouds everywhere, you're eventually going to blunder through one and right into one of the people whose feelings you hurt. That's not going to be fun. Two, think about how limited your life is going to be even before that happens. Think of all the places you won't be able to go anymore because you're avoiding this person or that person. The way you're going to feel like you have to watch yourself like crazy on social media because, what if you comment on someone's stuff and the person you were avoiding sees it? Guys, this is a recipe for crazy. One of the octopus's other defense mechanisms is to change its color and shape. It will change color to startle an attacker or make itself appear larger than it really is to make the other creature think twice about challenging it. This is a lot better for it on a day-to-day basis than using that ink cloud and running away. If you're an octopus person, before ghosting someone, give them a hint of your true colors. Tell them that you don't agree with them about something, or that your feelings were hurt when they said X, Y, Z, or that you had a great time on your date, but you're just not feeling that spark. You are stronger and more powerful than you think you are. You don't have to run away. A lot of these ghosting incidents actually happen because there was a misunderstanding about something, or one party made a baseless assumption about the other. And when the matter is discussed and cleared up, they can be friends or romantic partners after all. And even if you can't be best buddies with this person afterwards, at least the air has been cleared and you aren't worrying yourself crazy over avoiding this person. You're exchanging one uncomfortable conversation for years of being on edge and guarding your daily activities. Now, that ability to change their shape and color is one of the things that continues to blow the minds of people who study octopuses. They have one of the most sophisticated camouflage systems in the entire world, and they're able to make themselves look or blend into just about anything they would encounter in the ocean, meaning that they can literally hide in plain sight. This talent can be used to hide from or startle an attacker, or it can be used to blend in so they can surprise prey. For an octopus person, you're looking at a way of living that often involves changing form. Pisces are the chameleons of the zodiac. And again, like the Pisces, octopus people are the chameleons of the totem world. From moment to moment, they may appear to be someone and something else entirely. On the upside, like your average Pisces, this can make you a really great actor or performer. You're so good at making yourself look like, appear to be something or someone else that you can truly become the character you're portraying, which makes for a flawless and utterly believable performance. It can also, again, like the average Pisces, make you an excellent counselor because you can identify so strongly with the other person that you can literally put yourself in their shoes, allowing you to provide a more compassionate response. Remember how even the biggest octopuses can squeeze themselves into the smallest spaces? You can change your behavior and probably your physical appearance to such a degree that you can play multiple roles on a daily basis that seem totally incompatible with each other. People who don't know the real you, in fact, might even think that you and one of your alter egos are actually two different people. Because how could these individuals possibly be the same when they look and act so different? So perhaps you are a mild-mannered therapist by day and a wild and sassy drag queen at night. On the other hand, this talent is also why Pisces has a reputation for being confused a lot of the time. When you spend so much time being so many different people, you can lose track of who you really are, and this is true for octopus people as well. It's really critical for octopus people to pay attention to when they are taking on different personalities and appearances, because these things do feel like authentic expressions of the different parts of themselves, and when they are doing so because they are afraid to be judged for who they really are. In other words, are these dramatic shifts in character and appearance because you're expressing a different side of yourself in appropriate surroundings? Or are you camouflaging your true self to blend in and avoid being attacked? It's virtually impossible to nail down a Pisces' true personality because they themselves are often confused by its many facets. But if you pay attention, you will be able to see which facets are inherent and which are adaptive masks. And the same is true for octopus people. The other thing about having a totem that's such a master of camouflage, sometimes the best thing for you is not to get involved in certain situations in the first place. Remember how octopus people can get so sucked in by the emotions of others that they can't disentangle themselves and wind up obsessing over the other person's situation and worrying themselves sick about how to fix it? You don't have to do this. And this starts by letting yourself be an observer. Just someone who exists in the background rather than a participant. Sometimes we really aren't meant to intervene, even to offer comfort to a person who's suffering, no matter how the situation looks. If you're meant to help them, believe me, you will really want to, and it will come from a place of calm and love. On the other hand, if what's driving you is fear, guilt, righteous anger, or your ego, let it go. Believe me, this is going to save you so much trouble down the line. And if the person is intended to receive help from someone instead of figuring out on their own, the universe will send someone. It doesn't always have to be you. This was a really hard lesson for me to learn. Because with the work that I do, the second I overhear someone talking about a physical illness, or they say they've had this crazy dream, or they've been stung by a bee, or they're seeing bears everywhere, whatever, I have a pretty good idea of what these things mean and what to do about them. I used to really think that it was my job to help everyone. So what happened? I would get involved in the conversation, give them this information, and then wind up becoming their personal unpaid metaphysical encyclopedia and therapist. Would they actually use the info I gave them? No! But they had realized I was someone they could endlessly share all this stuff with, and then I would listen. I would begin to dread seeing them, and then I'd start avoiding going places where I knew they would be. It was awful. It took a long time, but I learned that just because someone is talking about something important to me, or that I have the answers they claim to want, or that they're suffering, that does not mean I'm supposed to get involved. This can still be a struggle some days, guys, but sticking with this as much as I can has saved me a ton of grief. And you know what? People still like me, and I still often feel moved to give love from a heart-centered place, not an ego-driven one. All I've done is let the universe tell me how best to use my energy, and this makes everyone happier. So I hope this has given you guys a good understanding of octopus. If you can believe it, as long as this video is, I actually have a ton more info. I had to make this shorter. But if you would like further information, you're welcome to schedule a session with me. I work with people all over the world to help them understand the unique messages of their animal totems and spirit guides, and also to help with physical and emotional healing, dream interpretation, figuring out what you're here to do with yourself, and a bazillion other things. And I would love to work with you as well. This is what I do for a living, and it's awesome. So if you're interested in working with me, you can visit my website, which is www.ravenlightholistichealing.com. It'll tell you exactly what I do, what to expect, what I charge, how to book a session with me, and all that good stuff. And please be sure to check out my FAQ page before emailing me with questions, as the answer may already be at your fingertips. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at Ravenlight Holistic Healing. Please look for Ravenlight Holistic Healing and not Jordana Van, because I do not respond to requests on my personal page or to messages. And while I understand if you would like my professional opinion on your spiritual situation, I don't provide this outside of a formal session under any circumstances. So if you're interested in my opinion or guidance, please book a session. Have a gorgeous day, my darlings. Cheers!